Hello there, I'm Scotty. You're not welcome back to the Smallville Retrospective, Season 1, Episode 21, also known as the season finale, Tempest. I like this episode. Man, this wraps up some of the stuff that's going on, but also leaves cliffhangers for next season. Bubble on my lip. Yeah, the premise of this is it's the spring formal, but also the Luthor Corp plant that Lex is managing has been closed by Lionel because Lex hasn't been able to thwart every attempt at stopping him. So finally, he's just closing this plant. So Lex has to come up with a way to stop all the people of Smallville that work for this plant from losing their jobs. Spring formal is going on. Whitney is shipping out to the Marine Corps. And Nixon is back sniffing around again. There's a lot of stuff going on. Oh, and tornadoes. As if there wasn't enough. I think this is one of the only times there isn't a big... Well, I guess next season there's not really a big overarching villain per se. But, yeah. So we start off the episode with Lex waiting for Lionel. Lionel says he's just going to be one of his normal speeches he makes, and he goes out there and he ends up announcing he's closing the plant effective immediately. And basically, Lex sums up by saying, you're closing the plant and you're blaming it on me. Basically. And so, just to go hash through this, Lex decides he's going to basically start a coup of sorts. Like, he's going to start a company, not company buyout, employee buyout, with the employees using what we find out to be his mother's stock, which I never caught before. His mother's stock, he got it from his nanny in the previous episode. I never thought about that. I never caught that. I didn't think about it until he comes in and he says, using your mother's stock. And I'm like, oh, because you got it from the nanny. Right. That set that up. I didn't think about it. I forgot her name. Sorry. Priscilla, right? Or Pamela. Pamela. You got it from Pamela. And, yeah, Whitney's also shipping out. He has a picnic. And he says he's shipping on Saturday, which would be the spring formal. It's not the prom like it would be. It's the spring formal. Even though they said prom earlier in the season. And Chloe's wearing a pink dress. It's now spring formal for some reason. And it's getting awful windy in Smallville. And Nixon is sniffing around. There's this wonderful scene where Clark is like doing chores. And he gets in the truck. He goes to start it. And the whole thing just explodes. And he comes out and he does like the Red Ranger from Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. And he just rips off the burned shirt. You know? Yeah, and it turns out Nixon's watching him. And then Nixon confronts him at the Talon, basically saying, hey, I saw what you did. You survived that, and I want to know how. And then he overhears them later. I'll go through the Nixon plotline here. They're talking. He's using that thing where he's got like the headphones hooked up and he's like a little satellite thing where he's listening to them or whatever. I don't know how those things ever worked, but he's listening to them and he overhears Clark saying that Lex, because he goes to see Lex earlier. I think it's about getting his limo, but he just ends up talking to him about what's going on with the plant. And so he mentions to his parents that they have octagonal disc, which we later find out is a key. It's on the desk, and Nixon steals it. We'll talk about that later. But, yeah. So Nixon has the disc, and he's snooping around. So formal comes around, and everyone is dressed to go. I like this moment between Whitney and Lana and Whitney. Even though they were never endgame, they have some genuine feelings for each other. There's moments throughout this episode that, you know, it's that state of dread for Whitney. He's going off the ship, going to ship off. And for those of us who've seen the show before and you know what happens to him, it is kind of sad. You know, But he goes off to war. Uh, he gets ready to go off to war. He takes, because he's not able to go to the dance, so he goes into the gym and he puts a CD and starts playing the song. And it's, you're all I want, you're all I need, you're everything, everything. And it hits you, man. And then later when he says goodbye to her, she's in the truck and he, says goodbye. He goes to get on and he turns around, looks at her. She's in the truck and she comes out and they run to each other and they hug each other. And he goes, I love you since the day I met you, and I'll still love you when I come back to you. And again, if you know this character's fate, and you know how sad that fucking is, man. I'm not gonna spoil it here. You gotta guess by the way I'm talking, but oh, man. And there's even a moment between him and Clark that kind of gets you welled up. But he apologizes. He's like, you and I have had a bit of a crazy year, huh? He apologized. Like, I'm sorry, Clark, for everything. And then he asked him to look after Lana for him to make sure she's okay. And that kind of conflicts him because, he's with Chloe right now, he still likes Lana, that sort of thing. I do want to talk about the scene. I'm kind of hopping around, but where they're in, I think it's the loft, and Chloe says, I just have this nightmare that we're going to be at the dance, and you're going to run off to the bus station to swoop Lana up, and I'll be left standing there. Left alone at the dance. And it's kind of what happens, actually, if you think about it. Although it's not about swooping her up, it's something else. So, let's get to the final showdown. A lot of things happen that lead to 3 different cliffhangers within the series. The wind starts to howl. Lana driving back. She gets knocked off the road into a ditch. She immediately gets out of the vehicle, which, no. It's windy. She gets knocked into a ditch. You live in Kansas, woman. You should know that means a tornado. You do not then step out. I know you're probably not safe staying in there, but you're less safe. It's more dangerous to just be walking around during it, right? At least inside the truck, she might be a little more safe. She gets out, and then she goes and gets back in, right? And that leaves that. We have the Nixon plotline. He shows up at the camp farm. He goes in to the cellar, and he looking around. And it's weird how he uses his camera to look at the spot where the key goes. The key, magnetically goes to it. And this is when Jonathan and Martha come out to go into the storm cellar to keep safe from the storm. When they, Jonathan sees it's open. He goes down. He starts having a fight with Nixon. And then the ship pops up. Nixon runs out. And cliffhanger number 1. Jonathan runs out after him. Okay, that is cliffhanger number 1. But before we get to cliffhanger number 2, let's go to the dance. The dance where they're playing Somebody Save Me. And it's just the clip from the theme song. Really, it's literally whatever they edited the song into for the theme song opening of the show. That's what they play. And you knew they had to promote. You watch this scene and you're thinking, oh, they had to promote this. They had to put out a promotion because you're watching it and Clark's like, hey, this band's pretty good. And Pete's like, yeah, Rummy Zero. And I'm like, okay, they had to be in a contract somewhere that they had to do that. That's so very promotional that they had to do that. And then they played another song. For Chloe. I Remember You, which is another song I like. But she and Chloe dance, and then that's he and Chloe dance, and that's when Lana into the ditch when that song is playing. But it cuts back to them later, and the tornado happens. And let's go to cliffhanger number 2 first. During a storm, Lex goes in, he sees that the thing's missing, and he's like, damn you, Nixon. But he keeps throwing things around and searching his study as if he's gonna find it, like Nixon just hid it on him. He keeps searching, and I'm like, Lex, if you know Nixon took it, why are you... Maybe he's just pissed he's running around. But Lionel shows this time, even he's like, you're using your mother's stuck to buy me out, or whatever. And It won't work because he says earlier, he reveals that he bought the savings and loan, which means that if they get behind on their payments, he won't hesitate to foreclose on their farms. It's just a terrible thing, man. That's mean, man. Just to one up your son, you're gonna ruin other people's lives just to one up your son. That's the Lionel Luthor's bad guy. He deserves what should have happened to him. Cliffhanger number 2. So he comes in. He says, "Oh, you're using your mother's stock to buy me out." He goes, "You braved the storm to tell me that? It won't work." Blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, the windows blast open. Lex gets a beady eye, and a pillar falls ever so gingerly on top of Lionel. Put a pillar on top. Shouts out to Danny McCoy. Anyway, love that dude, by the way. And then this piece of wood comes down and is like parallel right with his eyes. And he's screaming, "Help, Lex, help!" And Lex gets up and he just kind of stares at him. And I know this is going to sound very mean. I know it's his father. Let the son of a bitch die. I've thought this ever since I watched this all the way through the first time. Right? Got season 2, whatever. Let the son of a bitch die. You know how easier his life would have been if he just let him die and say, "Oh, he died when the tornado came in." It would have been so easy. I got knocked unconscious, and when I woke up, he was dead. He would have got away with it too, and there would be no meddling kids involved. Let the fucker die. And I'm not going to tell you what happens, okay? Because, well, you probably ought to figure it out, but because that's the second cliffhanger. Lex just stands there, and it cuts back to Clark at the dance. Just as Clark and Chloe are about to kiss, the National Weather Service has announced that tornado is heading for Smallville. It's heading for Smallville. There are 3 funnels, which end up forming into one. It swallows Lana in the truck. Clark takes off just like Chloe, had a nightmare he would. And the thing is, I think she knew it was going to happen because she turns around. She's like, "I'll go call Lana on my cell. It's okay." She turns around. She barely takes a step. And then she turns back around again and he's gone. So she knew it was going to happen. So, could Chloe tell the future? That goes nowhere anyway. But, yeah. And Pete is there, of course. He gets more to do in season 2, I swear. He's just there. He gets the Remy Zero shout out, I guess. But, yeah. Clark shows up. Lana sees him, right? Hold on a minute. I don't want the TV to turn off. Almost done. Hey. I don't want the TV to turn off. So, Lana sees him standing there. She goes, "Clark! Clark!" And she gets swallowed up by the tornado, right? Clark runs in the tornado. We see the tornado going for a little bit, and then "To Be Continued" pops up. That is some of the great finale work. That is great cliffhanger. That is a great way to do cliffhangers, right? You're in Kansas. Of course there's going to be tornadoes, right? So that would work, especially when you don't have an overarching villain yet. We haven't gotten to that point where we're doing overarching villains. You have Lionel Luthor has sort of been like overarching villain, but not really, as you've done Freak of the Week episodes for most of your run. And that will continue. I think it's around season 3. Maybe season 2 they start hitting at it, but like season 3 is where they really start going into the overall thing. I'm saying this right now, season 3 is my favorite season, so you're probably going to get a lot of high-ranking ones in season 3, because I like some of the plot lines in that season. Season 2 is going to be iffy, because there's some iffy stuff in that season, but yeah, overall, just to sum up the season, it's been great to go back and watch these episodes again. There's really only one episode that I really didn't like, and that was the drone one. You know, the bees. Not just because there were bees, it just didn't say right with me. It's my least favorite of the season. But when it comes to this, I will give it 4 Superman logos out of 5. I think this was very well done for a season finale. It set up everything we needed. It ended certain storylines that we were done with, like Whitney, and set up other things like I don't know, like it set up what happened to the spaceship. The spaceship takes off. I forgot to mention what happens to that. Ooh, what's going on there? And then what's gonna happen with Nixon and Jonathan, right? Is Lionel gonna survive? Will Lex save him? What happens with Clark and Lana? Well, obviously Clark's gonna survive. He just He just survived a goddamn explosion, so a tornado's not gonna do shit to him. But what's gonna happen with Chloe is exactly what she said was gonna happen. So, yeah, 4 Superman logos out of 5. It's a great cliffhanger. It's a great finale, I always thought. And yeah, and here's the thing before we go. Like I said, I used to rent these by disc, right? So I rented this one, not knowing there was only one episode on the disc. You know it says episode 21 on the disc? I didn't pay attention. I just put it in. And I watched this, like, oh, what happens with the tornado? And it goes to the menu. I'm like, wait, what? What happens to the tornado? Not realizing, cliffhanger, season finale stuff. I wasn't keen on it quite yet. But, although I should have, because one of the first episodes that I saw was a cliffhanger. And I hadn't resolved it yet. But I guess I hadn't quite figured it out. I don't know. But, yeah, this is great to go back and look. Like I said, I'm taking a break. I'm going to do something else, and I'll come back. I want to do season 2 before October. And then take a break. And maybe in November do season 3. We'll see how fast I can do it. I only took a couple days to do these, I guess. I probably would have been done sooner. If I didn't have company on Monday and Tuesday, I probably would have gotten done sooner. And if I would have gotten off my ass, well, if Key and Carlisle didn't post a 5-hour video on Zack and Cody, I just had to watch all the way through. Okay, I guess that's more on me, of having to watch all the way through once I started. I even said, I'll watch half of this and then go back to Smallville. And just, I looked at it at one point, I'm like, oh, I'm halfway. Fuck it, and just watched the whole thing. I never went back to it. But yeah, so what are your thoughts on this episode, this finale? Leave a comment below, like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.